Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low-dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today we're joined by Dr. Sajad Zalzala, also known as Dr. Z. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me again.
So can you tell us, since we last spoke, what have you been doing?
Yeah, sure. I can't remember the last time we spoke. It's probably been a year or so. I've been busy with my online clinic that I helped co-found called Ageless RX. We're a telemedicine platform in the States focused on helping people live longer and healthier. So we've been working. We launched about 2.5 years ago, and we've been working to bring longevity therapies to the public to make it a lot more accessible for people.
Okay, so I know you've been doing other things in the LDN world. Would you like to explain that?
Yeah, so we started offering LDN at Ageless RX probably a little over a year ago. We've had some really good feedback on LDN. Of course, kind of what I've experienced, and I've been prescribing LDN for years before in my clinic, and then by telemedicine, and then now kind of expanded through Ageless RX. The common theme is, some people respond to it really well, some people a little bit, and some not at all. And that tends to be the same sort of theme that we get from our online offering for the LDN. But at Ageless RX, we're looking to expand into doing more science-based, some science research, clinical trials, looking at patients retrospectively. We have several initiatives that we've been working on over the last year, and we're getting kind of ready to crunch some of the data, and we'll soon be seeking help from LDN users from all over the world, anybody who's interested in participating. And I'd love to tell you a little bit more about that.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so just a little background, and we'll probably have a kickoff webinar to kind of explain this a little bit more, because I don't have any slides with me right now. but the background data or the background for what kind of triggered us to do this sort of work is, LDN has two major mechanisms of actions that we think kind of account for why it works on such a wide range of disorders. One is it's a kind of a direct anti-inflammatory, the TLR4, and so it seems to focus anti-inflammatory effects, especially in the nervous system with the nerves in the brain and things like that. And then the other has to do with this endorphin rebound effect that seems to have a balancing system on the immune system, a balancing effect on the immune system, and therefore it seems to help on quite a few autoimmune conditions. If you think about the pathways of aging, or the hallmarks of aging, there are between 9 and 12, depending on who you ask. But we like to go with this. There's a 2017 paper, I think, that talked about the hallmarks of aging. They listed 9 of them, and some of them include things like immune system dysfunction and other types of dysfunction in the cell. And we think that the LDN has a potential to address some of these hallmarks of aging, but it hasn't really been studied yet. It's more of a suspicion rather than something that's been vetted out yet with trials or with more scientific studies.
Mm-hmm. And are you still collecting data from patients?
Yeah, we're collecting data from 2 sources. Multiple sources, I should say. So one source of data is from our own patient base. We've had, we started launching LDN. We launched LDN a little over a year ago. So we have probably a few hundred patients who have, hit the 1-year mark we're kind of gathering data on anonymized data. Obviously, we're not going to publish anything individual, and kind of aggregate the data anonymously and find trends. See if we can identify some trends. Maybe get a little bit more information about who's responding, who's not responding. How well people are responding. What are people using it for? We've asked our own patients to complete some quality of life assessments. Basically, they're standardized questionnaires that ask about sleep and mood and physical activity and things like that. Again, the idea is to see if there's a difference before they start LDN or shortly after they start LDN compared to 6 or 12 months later. So that's kind of one source of data that we're collecting. The other source of data that we're soon going to be collecting we're kind of putting the finishing touches on the data collection and our website is we're calling it the LDN retrospective trial. We have an IRB approval for this trial, so that allows us to kind of go to the public and with proper consent and things like that. We will be asking people to help us provide some data on their LDN, on the LDN use, and there are several goals we hope to accomplish. One is we want to get a broader or better understanding of the dosing for the dosing schedules for LDN, because I see with my own patients that some people respond better to a lower dose, some people higher dose. Although there's still a lot of misconception out there that 4.5 milligrams is kind of the only dose, and I know clinically that's not the case, but we'd like to kind of gather as much information as possible. So that information we're hoping will help guide kind of better dosing for patients, because I feel like there's a good chunk of patients, if they stop at 4.5 milligrams, they're never going to get the benefit, and so they give up on LDN too easily. So that's one objective, is kind of the dosing. Other objectives include cost. For example, there was I believe it was a Norwegian study that showed that LDN use can actually reduce costs in patients with rheumatoid arthritis and potentially other autoimmune conditions. And we were kind of see if we can find those similar patterns here in the States and elsewhere. We anticipate probably most of our patients will probably come from the States, but and then we'll also be looking for disease prevalences and things like that. I don't want to give too much detail exactly what we're looking for, because I don't want to skew the data. I don't, because suggestion can be very powerful. So all I can say is that we're hoping to find some very useful and promising patterns, comparing people who've been on LDN short term, they just started, therefore LDN really hasn't had a chance to do anything, versus maybe medium term versus long term. So we're looking to see if we can find some patterns in that group, and then maybe compare those groups with standardized patient populations from various different databases, and see if we can pick out patterns and differences between LDN users and people who are new to LDN versus the general public, like I said, based on these databases. So it's a fairly ambitious project, and we've been working on it for a while. We just recently had the resources to be able to roll this out on a larger scale.
So how long a project is this before you will get to the position to publish?
Oh, that I don't know. I'm hoping we get a few thousand, participants, and we'd be able to find some very interesting data on there. But sometimes even a lack of finding is publishable by itself. And sometimes can spur discussion and calls for further studies. I would anticipate, if we'll be launching the questionnaire in a couple more weeks. So probably by the time this show actually airs, we'll probably have it live. It'll be on our research page at AgelSRX. So if you go to AgelSRX/research, we have a few of our clinical trials that we're working on, and this will be listed there. Shortly. It's not there yet because we haven't ready to roll it out. we're open to kind of, reach out to LDN users and things like that, encourage them to complete the survey so we can gather this important data that'll help, that'll help accelerate the knowledge base of LDN.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this will go out on YouTube, Vimeo, on our radio show, on all the different platforms, and we get thousands of listeners a week, and viewers, of course. So hopefully, this is the right target audience for you, and good luck with it.
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to be back here maybe in a year and we can share some findings. Well, another trial that I don't know if I've mentioned to you before is we're doing a trial for using LDN and NAD for post-COVID. We started enrolling in the trial probably about 6 months ago, and we had some fits and stops and starts on the trial. We had to go back and make some changes and things like that to make it a little bit easier for people to enroll. But the idea is that patients who get sick with COVID-19, there's a good number of them, and it probably depends on the variant, but there's a good number that go on to have chronic fatigue-like symptoms, fatigue, headache, brain fog. And there's a few more symptoms as well. And what spurred the study is anecdotally, we had some patients, read about LDN with other post-viral syndromes, like post mono and other types of post-viral syndromes, and they decided to try LDN for their post-COVID, and we've had some feedback saying that it does seem to help for some patients. Not everybody responds to LDN, and then kind of independently of that, we had patients who use NAD therapy, like for example, either they go to an IV clinic and get an IV infusion of NAD, or they use one of our NAD patches, products that we offer. We offer a patch and an injection. And again, I mean, we had some improvement in some of their symptoms. So that spurred us to launch a clinical trial to look at the combination of LDN with NAD patches. It's an iontophoresis patch that kind of infuses NAD, and it's a small pilot. We were hoping to enroll 60 patients in it, and we were hoping to publish that as soon as we complete enrollment, and get data back. Preliminarily, it looks promising, but I don't want to say anything until we have more data, more people, and publish.
So are you looking for more people to take part in that as well?
That would be great. That would be great. The biggest, one of the biggest hurdle that we found is, a lot of people who want to participate are already taking LDN or NAD. So that's part of the reason why it's been a little bit difficult finding participants, because both of these products are fairly available.
So what is the criteria to take part?
It's been a while since I looked at the exact criteria, but based off the top of my head, is you've had to have had positive COVID test. Initially, we had it for within the last 6 months, I think, but we extended that to the last 12 months. And then we're looking for fatigue as kind of the primary endpoint for our study, and then some of the other secondary endpoints is like muscle pains and things like that. But fatigue has to be a big component of the post-COVID. It's found in probably about 60 or 70% of people with post-COVID have significant fatigue. Of course, they have to be in the United States. Currently we can't enroll patients outside, but really almost anywhere in the United States. There's a couple states we can't ship to, but there tend to be smaller states. So probably about 97% of the U.S. population is eligible to enroll. But the exclusion criteria tends to because it's kind of hindered our ability to enroll is you can't have been on LDN or NAD products recently. So a lot of times by the time people hear about the trial, they've already started LDN, or they've already started NAD on their own, and they're no longer eligible. The other issue we had was we had to go back to the IRB and say, hey, look, the possibility of being on placebo was scaring people away. So we decided to remove the placebo. So now that everybody that enrolls gets the active treatment at no cost, as part of the trial. And that has helped enrollment a little bit, but unfortunately, I think it came a little too late, because by the time we launched it and the interest got out there, we had a rush of people interested, and then a lot of people didn't qualify, or a lot of people didn't want to risk being on the placebo, and so by the time we made the changes, we haven't had a chance to go back and kind of make those changes public yet. But if anybody's interested in learning more, we have a webinar on our website. Again, if you go to that research page, there's a link to our post-COVID. There's a webinar that we launched when we first that we recorded when we first launched it. Gives all the details, except the major changes. Like I said, we're kind of doing away with the placebo arm, and just seeing how much data we can get from as controlled of a trial as we can get. Our hope there is, we'll be able to, like I said, we'll be able to see whether or not, this combination helps, and then we can go on and perhaps, perhaps with some, grant funding or something like that, start looking at mechanisms. What is it about post-COVID? And again, this probably applies to a lot of post-viral in general, and not just post-COVID. COVID just tends to be the virus of the decade. But what is it about this post-viral syndrome that causes so many problems? What are potentially some markers that could predict somebody's propensity to get this post-COVID, and what are some markers that we can use to track somebody's progress on not only NAD and LDN, but also potentially other therapies as well. And there's always the possibility of adding other combinations as well. Like I said, the NAD LDN was just the combination we had ready access to, but there are other possibilities, like for example ketone esters, and potentially some various different medications and things like that.
So you've been really, really busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Never a dull day. Never a dull day at AegisRx. And and I still do some consultations for LDN patients who don't necessarily want a little bit more of a one-on-one consultation. Because if the format of AegisRx is almost completely online, and most people like that, we find. But some people still like to kind of have that 10-15 minute discussion with the doctor, with the prescriber, and that's still available through my original LDN Direct telemedicine service.
Mm-hmm. I interviewed Dr. Nick
Dahl.
Dahl.
Yes.
So he was full of LDN, so that's good. He said you trained him well.
Yes. He we encouraged all of our prescribers on our AegisRx platform to undergo the training program that you have. And Dr. Dahl was the first one to finish. We have a couple of our other prescribers who are in various different parts of completion for it. But yeah, very, very useful information. Dr. Dahl really enjoyed all the information that was presented on those classes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having joined us today, and we will definitely find out more from you next year.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we have a lot to talk about next year with our next. Yeah, but we're only getting started. I mean, we're hoping to kind of grow our research initiative and include not only LDN but other things. Maybe explore other uses for LDN that nobody's really explored yet. So again, we want to start with this survey, with these surveys, our internal survey, and then kind of these external retrospective surveys, and then go from there. The other thing I forgot to mention is we're going to be part of this retrospective trial that we're doing is we're going to be asking for volunteers to do blood work for us as well. So it's not going to be on everybody, but we might pick 25, 50 people in various different groups to do blood work, again, to kind of see if we can detect any changes to, let's say, blood sugar, insulin, or other things that LDN might potentially affect. So that's the other component. And if we find some signal in that noise there, then we can expand that and kind of maybe do a wider reach for biomarkers and things like that.
So if anybody is interested, to go to your website, aegisrx.com,
.com. Yep. And then they can either go directly to /research/research, or if they go to Learn, and then there's like a research link under the Learn. We also have blog articles and things like that we posted about LDN and other things as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Brilliant. That's really, really good. But you are doing some fantastic stuff. So, well,
we're trying. Yeah, we're trying. It's been slower than I'd like. I mean, we what's been keeping us most busy at our research team is that rapamycin clinical trial. We're studying rapamycin for aging, and at least that's where we want to head. I don't think we're going to be able to do that on our very first trial, but it is a pretty ambitious trial, and it's kind of been keeping our research team busy. And so for 2022, we're trying to grow our research team, get more capability, and start really kind of looking at various different all aspects of research.
Well, that's amazing.
And longevity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll let you go because I know you've got another meeting, but it was lovely talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Okay. Always a pleasure. All right, thank you.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, @ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.